Ethiopia has freed an opposition leader as part of a mass release of prisoners who were jailed over anti-government protests in 2015. Merera Gudina was released with more than 400 others. Gudina always denied violating the law. His release is part of a government drive for national reconciliation. Paul Brennan has more.
Merera Gudina is a hero to his supporters, and thousands of excited well-wishers formed a guard of honour to escort his convoy the 9 miles from the detention centre on the outskirts of Addis Ababa to his home in the nearby town of Bereau. The leader of the Oromo Federalist Party had been arrested after returning from a visit to Brussels a year ago. He was accused of collusion with outlawed groups, a charge he always denied.
For myself, I have never violated the law. I was a former member of a parliament. I know the constitution and the law. I have been always, respecting that. Anyway, it's good that I'm out.
His freedom came as part of government efforts to stem a spreading wave of violence and unrest, which flared up in 2015, has claimed hundreds of lives and threatens the stability of one of Africa's fastest-growing economies. On January the 3rd, in a move aimed at defusing the tension, Ethiopia's Prime Minister announced he would release many prominent dissident politicians.
With our party and the members, we will decide in the next days and the weeks what to do and what not to do. Especially how to deal with the government call for national dialogue. If it is real and honest, we are for it.
But Amnesty International and other observers warn that a few high-profile releases will not be enough.
The regime has to do more, has to rescind these draconian laws, has to institute judicial reforms, security sector reform, a complete overhaul of the electoral system. Without this, I don't think the people will be satisfied.
Thousands of prisoners of conscience are still in jail, accused or prosecuted for protesting against the government. In a statement, the US Embassy said it was encouraged by the latest releases. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera.
Mohammed Ademo is founder and editor of OPride.com. It's an independent news website about Ethiopia. He's joining us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. The government says it's doing this because it wants to build grounds for a national consensus. Do you think this is going to be enough?
Dr. Merera Gudina spent his entire career fighting to build bridges and for democracy and equality in that country. In that sense, his release today, along with about 115 other federal inmates, is a welcome news. And I think it is symbolic for what the government is trying to do. He's exactly the kind of person that they need to have a dialogue. But is it enough? I think it remains to be seen, because more than half of Merera's own colleagues in the Oromo Federalist Congress in the opposition are in jail, and his release today should be followed by the release of others like him who are arrested under the same pretext. I think then and only then the government can begin to rebuild a consensus and trust in the process so that a true reconciliation can take effect.
They were arrested, of course, because of the violence that broke out in 2015, and that resulted in significant injuries and some deaths. What do you think is going to be the reaction of the supporters of the people and the politicians who've been released today?
I think people are happy that Merera and some of the people who have been released are home with their families today, but they remain skeptical. This government has been in power since 1991, and they have made promises at different times to reform when they faced challenges, internal and external, but some of those promises never really came to pass. So I think a lot of people are watching this with skepticism and waiting to see what comes next.
As you say, this government has been in place since 1991. You say that there has been skepticism about what the government has failed to come through on in the past. What reason do people have to believe that the government is going to stand by what it's promising this time?
I think, about a year ago, Merera said, I'm jailed fighting for my people will let me free. And that's essentially what happened today. I think what gives a lot of people optimism is there's a young population that is demanding it is right, that is asking for more. In Ethiopia faces a challenge where the protests are not going away, and it has pushed the ruling party to a corner where now there are divisions even within the governing coalition, where the Oromo members of the ruling Ethiopian People's Democratic Front are essentially embracing the protesters' demands and calling for reforms. I think the power struggle within the party, in the fact that there is an assertive young generation of leaders within the ruling party, in the fact that the protesters and the young people who are taking to the streets and demanding their rights, this gives people a lot of optimism, because one way or another, change seems inevitable in Ethiopia. It's just a matter of how soon it will come and when we are going to see more change.
Mohammed Ademo is founder and editor of OPride.com. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.